I am currently reading Article 8 of the Revised Penal Code by the Book of Reyes, Conspiracy and Proposal to Commit Felony. Conspiracy and proposal to commit felony are punishable only in the cases in which the law specifically provides penalty therefor. A conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to an agreement concerning the commission of a felony and decide to commit it. There is proposal, and the person who has decided to commit a felony proposes its execution to some other person or persons. Important words and phrases. Number 1, conspiracy and proposal to commit felony. Conspiracy and proposal to commit felony are two different acts or felonies. Number 1, conspiracy to commit a felony. Number 2, proposal to commit felony. Number 2, only in the cases in which the law specifically provides a penalty therefor, unless there is a specific provision in the Revised Penal Code providing a penalty for conspiracy or proposal to commit a felony. Mere conspiracy or proposal is not a felony. Conspiracy is not a crime except when the law specifically provides a penalty therefor. A conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to an agreement concerning the commission of a felony and decide to commit it. That's Article 8. Generally, conspiracy is not a crime except when the law specifically provides a penalty therefor, as in treason, Article 115, rebellion, Article 136, and sedition, Article 141. The crime of conspiracy known to the common law is not an indictable offense in the Philippines. An agreement to commit a crime is a reprehensible act from the viewpoint of morality, but as long as the conspirators do not perform overt acts in furtherance of their malevolent design, the sovereignty of the state is not outraged and the tranquility of the public remains undisturbed. However, when in resolute execution of a common scheme, a felony is committed by two or more malefactors, the existence of a conspiracy assumes pivotal importance in the determination of the liability of the perpetrators. General rule, conspiracy and proposal to commit felony are not punishable. Exception, they are punishable only in the cases in which the law specially provides a penalty therefor. Reason for the rule, conspiracy and proposal to commit a crime are only preparatory acts, and the law regards them as innocent or at least permissible except in rare and exceptional cases. The Revised Penal Code specially provides a penalty for mere conspiracy in Article 115, Article 136, and 141. Article 115, conspiracy to commit treason, penalty. The conspiracy to commit the crime of treason shall be punished by prison mayor and a fine not exceeding 10,000 pesos. Article 136, conspiracy to commit coup d'etat, rebellion, or insurrection. The conspiracy to commit coup d'etat shall be punished by prison mayor in its minimum period and a fine which shall not exceed 8,000 pesos. The conspiracy to commit rebellion or insurrection shall be punished by prison correctional in its maximum period and a fine which shall not exceed 5,000 pesos, as amended by Republic Act Number 6968. Article 141, conspiracy to commit sedition. Persons conspiring to commit the crime of sedition shall be punished by prison mayor in its medium period and a fine not exceeding 2,000 pesos, as amended by PD Number 942. Treason, coup d'etat, rebellion, or sedition should not be actually committed. The conspirator should not actually commit treason, coup d'etat, rebellion, or sedition. It is sufficient that two or more persons agree and decide to commit treason, rebellion, or sedition. If they commit, say, treason, they will be held liable for treason, and the conspiracy which they had before committing treason is only a manner of incurring criminal liability. It is not a separate offense. Conspiracy is a felony, distinguished from conspiracy as a manner of incurring criminal liability. When the conspiracy relates to a crime actually committed, it is not a felony, but only a manner of incurring criminal liability. That is, when there is conspiracy, the act of one is the act of all. Even if the conspiracy relates to any of the crimes of treason, rebellion, and sedition, but any of them is actually committed, the conspiracy is not a separate offense. It is only a manner of incurring criminal liability that is all the conspirators who carried out their plan and personally took part in its execution are equally liable. The offenders are liable for treason, rebellion, or sedition, as the case may be. And the conspiracy is absorbed. When conspiracy is only a manner of incurring criminal liability, it is not punishable as a separate offense. Illustrations of conspiracy as felony and as a manner of incurring criminal liability. Number one, A and B agreed and decided to rise publicly and take arms against the government with the help of their followers, even if they did not carry out their plan to overthrow the government. A and B are liable for conspiracy to commit rebellion under Article 136 of the Revised Penal Code. But if A and B and their followers did rise publicly and take arms against the government to overthrow it, thereby committing rebellion, their conspiracy is not a felony. They are liable for rebellion, and their conspiracy is only a manner of incurring criminal liability for rebellion. Number two, A, B, and C, after having conceived a criminal plan, got together, agreed, and decided to kill D. If A, B, and C fail to carry out the plan for some reason or another, they are not liable for having conspired against D because the crime they conspired to commit, which is murder, is not treason, rebellion, or sedition. But if they carry out the plan and personally took part in its execution, which resulted in the killing of D, they are all liable for murder, even if A merely acted as guard outside the house where D was killed and B merely held the arms of D when C stopped him to death. Their conspiracy is only a manner of incurring criminal liability for murder. It is not an offense, not only because a crime was committed after the conspiracy, but also because conspiracy to commit murder is not punished in the Revised Penal Code. Indications of conspiracy. When the defendant is by their acts aimed at the same object, one performing one part and the other performing another part so as to complete it with a view of to the attainment of the same object, and their acts, though apparently independent, were in fact concerted and cooperative, indicating closeness of personal association, concerted action, and concurrence of sentiments. The court will be justified in concluding that said defendants were engaged in a conspiracy. Thus, an accused has been held as a co-conspirators as the circumstances of his participation indubitably showed unity of purpose and unity in the execution of the unlawful acts, gleaned from that fact that he knew of the plot to assassinate the victim, as he too had been ordered to scout for a man who could do the job. He also knew exactly the place where the killing was to take place and also the date and approximate time of the assault. For a collective responsibility among the accused to be established, it is sufficient that at the time of the aggression, all of them acted in concert, each doing his part to fulfill their common design to kill their victim, and although only one of them may have actually stopped the victim, the act of that one is deemed to be the act of all. The acts of the defendants must show a common design. It is fundamental for conspiracy to exist that there must be unity of purpose and unity in the execution of the unlawful objective. Here, appellants did not act with a unity of purpose, even assuming that appellants have joined together in the killing. Such circumstances alone do not satisfy the requirement of a conspiracy because the rule is that neither joint nor simultaneous action is per se sufficient proof of conspiracy. It must be shown to exist as clearly and convincingly as the commission of the offense itself. Obedience to a command does not necessarily show concert of design, for at any rate it is the acts of the conspirators that show their common design. Although the defendants are relatives and had acted with some degree of simultaneity in attacking their victim, nevertheless, this fact alone does not prove conspiracy. People versus Pugay, 167 Scra 439. Facts. The deceased Miranda, a 25-year-old retired and the accused Pugay were friends. On the evening of May 19, 1982, while a town fiesta was being held in the public plaza, the group of accused Pugay and Samson saw the deceased walking nearby and started making fun of him. No content with what they were doing, accused Pugay suddenly took a can of gasoline from under the engine of a Ferris wheel and poured its contents on the body of Miranda. Then the accused Samson set Miranda on fire, making a human torch out of him. Held, where there is nothing in the record showing that there was previous conspiracy or unity of criminal purpose between the two accused immediately before the commission of the crime, where there was no animosity between the deceased and the accused, and it is clear that the accused merely wanted to make fun of the deceased. The respective criminal responsibility of the accused arising from different acts directed against the deceased is individual and not collective, and each of them is liable only for the act committed by him. Period of time to afford opportunity for meditation and meditation and reflection not required in conspiracy. Unlike in evident premeditation, where a sufficient period of time must elapse to afford full opportunity for meditation and reflection and for the perpetrator to deliberate on the consequences of his intended deed, conspiracy arises on the very instant the plotters agree expressly or impliedly to commit the felony and forthwith decide to pursue it. Once this assent is established, each and every one of the conspirators is made criminally liable for the crime committed by any one of them. Article 186 of the Revised Penal Code, punishing conspiracy. Article 186, monopolies and combinations in restraint of trade. The penalty of prison correctional and its minimum period or a fine ranging from 200 to 6,000 pesos or both shall be imposed upon any person who shall enter into any contract or agreement or shall take part in any conspiracy or combination in the form of a trust or otherwise in restraint of trade or commerce or to prevent by artificial means free competition in the market. Number 3, any person who being a manufacturer, producer shall combine, conspire, or agree with any person for the purpose of making transactions prejudicial to lawful commerce or of increasing the market price of any such merchandise. Requisite of conspiracy. The two or more persons came to an agreement. Number 2, that the agreement concerned the commission of a felony. And number 3, that the execution of the felony be decided upon. First element, agreement presupposes meeting of the minds of two or more persons. Thus, the fact that a document is discovered purporting to be a commission appointing the defendant an officer of armed forces against the government does not prove conspiracy because it was not shown that defendant received or accepted that commission. The second element, the agreement must refer to the commission of a crime. It must be an agreement to act, to effect, to bring about what has already been conceived and determined. Thus, the mere fact that the defendant met and aired some complaints showing discontent with the government over some real or fancied evils is not sufficient. Third element, the conspirators have made up their minds to commit the crime. There must be a determination of to commit the crime with treason, rebellion, or sedition. Direct proof is not essential to establish conspiracy. Article 8 of the Revised Penal Code provides that there is conspiracy when two or more persons agree to commit a crime and decide to commit it. Direct proof is not essential to establish conspiracy and may be inferred from the collective acts of the accused before, during, and after the commission of the crime. Conspiracy can be presumed from and proven by acts of the accused themselves when the said acts point to a joint purpose and design, concerted action, and community of interest. It is not necessary to show that all the conspirators actually hit and killed the victim. Conspiracy renders all the conspirators as co-principals regardless of the extent and character of their participation. because in contemplation of law, the act of one conspirator is the act of all. Quantum of proof required to establish conspiracy, similar to the physical act constituting the crime itself. The elements of conspiracy must be proven beyond reasonable doubt. Settled is the rule that to establish conspiracy, evidence of actual cooperation rather than mere cognizance or approval of an illegal act is required. Conspiracy must establish by positive and conclusive evidence. It must be shown to exist as clearly and convincingly as the commission of the crime itself. Mere presence of a person at the scene of the crime does not make him a conspirator, for conspiracy transcends companionship. The evidence shows that George Comadre and Danilo Lozano did not have any participation in the commission of the crime and must therefore be set free. Their mere presence at the scene of the crime, as well as their close relationship with Antonio, are insufficient to establish conspiracy, considering that they performed no positive act in furtherance of the crime. Neither was it proven that their act of running away with Antonio was an act of giving moral assistance to his criminal act. The ratiocination of the trial court that their presence provided encouragement and sense of security to Antonio is devoid of any factual basis. Such finding is not supported by the evidence on record and cannot therefore be a valid basis of a finding of conspiracy. The revised penal code especially provides a penalty for mere proposal in Article 115 and 136. Article 115, proposal to commit treason, penalty. The proposal to commit the crime of treason shall be punished by prisión correccional in a fine not exceeding 5,000 pesos. Article 136, proposal to commit coup d'etat, rebellion or insurrection. The proposal to commit coup d'etat shall be punished by prisión mayor in its minimum period and a fine which shall not exceed 8,000 pesos. The proposal to commit rebellion or insurrection shall be punished by prisión correccional in its medium period and a fine not exceeding 2,000 pesos as amended by Republic Act Number 6968. Treason or rebellion should not be actually committed. In proposal to commit treason or rebellion, the crime of treason or rebellion should not be actually committed by reason of the proposal. If the crime of treason or rebellion was actually committed after and because of the proposal, then the proponent would be liable for treason or rebellion as a principal by inducement. That's Article 17, Paragraph 2. And in such case, the proposal is not a felony. Requisites of proposal. Number 1, that the person has decided to commit a felony. And number 2, that he proposes in execution to some other person or persons. There is no criminal proposal when number 1, the person who proposes is not determined to commit the felony. Example, A desires that the present government be overthrown, but A is afraid to do it himself with others. A then suggests the overthrowing of the government to some desperate people who will do it at the slightest provocation. In this case, A is not liable for a proposal to commit rebellion because A has not decided to commit it. Number 2, there is no decided, concrete, and formal proposal. In the above example, note that there was merely a suggestion, not a decided, concrete, and formal proposal. Number 3, it is not the execution of a felony that is proposed. Example, A conceived the idea of overthrowing the present government. A called several of his trusted followers and instructed them to go around the country and secretly to organize groups and to convince them of the necessity of having a new government. Note that what A proposed in this case is not the execution of the crime of rebellion, but the performance of preparatory acts for the commission of rebellion. Therefore, there is no criminal proposal. Problem: if the proponents of rebellion desist before any rebellious act is actually performed by the would-be material executors, inform the authorities, and aid in the arrest of their fellow plotters, should the proponent be exempt? According to Albert, the proponents should be exempt from the penalties provided for criminal proposals and conspiracies, for the law would rather prevent than punish crimes, and encouragement should be given to those who hearken to the voice of conscience. But once a proposal to commit rebellion is made by the proponent to another person, the crime of proposal to commit rebellion is consummated, and the resistance of the proponent cannot legally exempt him from criminal liability. It is not necessary that the person to whom the proposal is made agrees to commit treason or rebellion. Note that what constitutes the felony of proposal to commit treason or rebellion is the making of proposal. The law does not require that the proposal be accepted by the person to whom the proposal is made. If it is accepted, it may be conspiracy to commit treason or rebellion because there would be an agreement and a decision to commit it. Proposal is an overt act of corruption of public officer. One who offers money to a public officer to induce him not to perform his duties but the offer is rejected by the public officer is liable for attempted bribery. Note that while it is true that the act performed by the offender is in the nature of a proposal and is not punishable because it does not involve treason or rebellion, nevertheless, the proposal in this case is an overt act of the crime of corruption of public officer. The crimes in which conspiracy and proposal are punishable are against the security of the state or economic security. Treason is against the external security of the state. Coup d'etat, rebellion, and sedition are against internal security. Monopolies and combination restraint of trade are against economic security. Reason why conspiracy and proposal to commit a crime is punishable in crimes against external and internal security of the state. In ordinary cases, the state survives the victim and the culprit cannot find in the success of his work any impunity, whereas in crimes against the external and internal security of the state, if the culprit succeeds in his criminal enterprise, he would obtain the power and therefore impunity for the crime committed.